Texans have heard for years now how Democrats are working to turn the state blue. Republicans, though, continue to win. Is anything going to be different in 2026? The director of the Lone Star Project, a Democratic PAC and strategist, Matt Angle, is here with us this morning. Thanks for being here.
Hi, Phil. Good to be here.
So we now have a Democratic primary between Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett and State Representative James Tallarico. What are you going to be watching as this progresses? I mean, this race will be over in 2.5 months or so.
Yeah, it's a short fuse and it burns fast, so we will know pretty quickly. And what I am convinced is that whatever happens, the candidate that emerges will be stronger than they are now because they're going to compete with each other. It's going to be pretty vigorous. What I'm going to be looking for is the ability and the effort by each one to expand their support. That this is an election in which a lot of people are giving Democrats another look. A lot of people that have been maybe defaulting to Republicans or haven't been involved in politics, they're concerned about what's going on in the country, what's going on in the state, is giving them a reason to consider Democrats. And I think it's important that both Jasmine Crockett and James Tallarico expand their appeal so they can bring in some of those new voters.
And when you talk about competition being good for the party, is there a line, though, if they start throwing mud at each other, is that counterproductive for them in November?
It sure can be, and that would be a mistake. In my view, the first one that slings mud is hurt, and if you keep slinging it, you could be hurt badly. I don't think you'll see much of that. I think both of them, by nature, are really looking to enthuse their base and try to expand it, and I think it'll really be a contest as to who can do that the most effectively.
Does this, building a coalition within the Democratic Party to get 50+1 on the Democratic primary, does that run through the Hispanic vote?
Well, Hispanics are really an important part of it, for sure. And but Democrats, it's one of the reasons it's so hard, is that we build a coalition. We don't just get everybody who thinks alike and get them to show up. That's the way Republicans win, usually from the right back to the middle. But it's Democrats, we have to pull together people who think of themselves as progressive, people who think of themselves as moderates, and people who think of themselves as conservative, but they're disillusioned with the leadership of the state. And so the key will be whether they can do that, and certainly Hispanics fall into each of those three categories. And a lot of people don't realize that. There are progressive Hispanics, moderate Hispanics, and conservative Hispanics. We need a disproportionate number of each one.
As a Democrat, do you want your candidate to run against Ken Paxton, John Cornyn, or Wesley Hunt, or does it matter?
Oh, well, I think we've got a chance to win against any of them, but any Democrat who's thinking straight believes and wants Ken Paxton to be their nominee.
The Attorney General.
Yeah, what that will mean is that Republicans in the state of Texas deliberately chose a stand-up criminal who's corrupt. I mean, Ken Paxton has proven over and over again that he's dishonest. He's dishonest with his colleagues. He's dishonest with the public. And it looks like, in my view, if you're asking me to predict, I think they will nominate him.
In Congressional District 33, it used to be a Democratic stronghold in Tarrant County. After Republicans changed the lines, it's now a Democratic stronghold in Dallas County. What are you going to be watching for in that race?
Well, again, I think that the district itself is the part of a map that's just a political crime. What Donald Trump and his cowardice, Greg Abbott, in collapsing to him, have done to the state of Texas is just horrible from the standpoint of its effectiveness to have the strongest congressional delegation possible. Now the map's drawn. I think it's really an interesting race because both Colin Allred and Julie Johnson are well liked by the voters within that district. Both of them have served them very, very successfully. And so I think this is a campaign that really comes down to the tactics, kind of who has the strongest message, who does the best job in communicating with voters. And again, I think this is also one in which you don't want to go negative. You want to stay positive because the voters like both candidates.
And quickly, in the last 30 seconds, we've talked about the federal races, but do you see Democrats having any type of chance in the statewide races?
Well, certainly for the U.S. Senate. We talked about that. I think that Ken Paxton will be their nominee. I don't think John Cornyn's got a prayer. I've said and I believe that he's a dead senator walking. So I think that Democrats, if we nominate somebody who can build that broad coalition, we've got a chance to win the Senate race for sure.
Governor, Lieutenant Governor, Attorney General, any
Well, our governor's candidate is very, very strong, Gina Hinojosa. It's whether or not she has enough money. If she can get the money to compete, I think that Abbott could be vulnerable. I certainly would look at the Attorney General's race.
It's an open seat.
Yeah, it's an open seat. Nathan Johnson here from Dallas is running, very strong candidate. If he's nominated, I think he definitely has a chance to win.
It's an uphill battle for all Democratic.
Sure. I mean, in Texas, it's a Republican-leaning seat. Democrats have to get some people who would otherwise default to Republicans to vote for Democrats.
All right, Matt Angle, thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you.